Today is 4 steps to managing the progress of your project. We're going to take a look at those reporting options that you have to be able to determine the progress or the status of your project. So just a few housekeeping notes right now. If you have any kind of internet delay or a lag in the response time or some kind of an audio challenge, just drop off of the GoToWebinar and just log right back in again, and that should, in most cases, take care of that. On our webinar today, I have another customer account manager joining me to monitoring the questions box, and that's Raul Quinones. Raul, are you there?
I'm here, Sherry. Hello, everyone. I look forward to answering and hopefully answering your questions today. And so welcome, sit back, and we're glad you're here.
Great. Thanks for helping out today, Raul. So I don't have a ton of content. We're going to spend a lot of time in the demo system, and so when I demo the reporting options and reports that I want to talk about today, I will open up for questions, and we can take a look at some scenarios or demo questions and look in the demo system with your questions as well. So I plan to have a lot of time available for any Q&A at the end of the demonstration I'm about to talk about today. So get ready and let us know about your questions, and then I will open it up to Raul having some Q&A at the end. So without further ado, we'll get started. Raul is going to be recording our webinar today, so we will be uploading it, processing it, and housing it in our Knowledge Center. And it usually takes between 24 and 48 hours to get there. So you will have this as a reference point after the fact. So it's always good to know that. So if you have any other team members that you would like to share this with, we would love for you to be able to do that. So the KC Knowledge Center, easiest thing to do is look for a webinar and something about managing progress of your project or managing project, and it should come up with in the search criteria. All right, so let's get started. Because I talked about our lag time. So today I wanted to just talk about these 4 steps: planning, potentially, but at least assigning your resources with some budget of hours, and inputting the budget information, hours, cost, billable amounts, if applicable, to the project and or task level. And then at the end of each time period, reporting on metrics. And that's the tough part, right? That's where we all struggle in what report do I choose? What do I select to be able to see and manage my project? So we're going to really hone in on that part of it, and then understand if there's something gone awry, what is it, how to drill down into it to figure it out, and who to have the conversations with, and then what action to take. So let's get started. I'm going to hop right on into my demo system today. All right, so I've logged in here to my demo data system, and you'll see here that a couple of charts on my dashboard. I am in the portfolio license today, but I did want to cover some reporting options that will also be available to you, those of you that have the project tracking license as well. We do have reports that will enable you to manage your projects for both types of licenses, and all those, they're including the financials license as well. So the first thing that I want to show is give you some background information about my projects that I have for this particular scenario. I have on my dashboard here some reports that are standard reports that my PM would regularly run at the end of each time period, whether it be weekly or semi-monthly or bi-weekly, etc. They're here set up, ready to go, and I've got different options here based on if I'm portfolio or tracking. But the easy way to get to those projects, I've set up a list that's a saved list here on my home dashboard, so I can easily get to the projects and contracts that I'm working on, in the next few weeks. So I've got a combination of 3 projects. The most important one that I want to look at today is this labor project for my retina scanners. I've got an expense project just for collecting expenses, purchasing maybe retina scanners for the project, and a fixed price training project as well. But today I really want to focus on this labor project. And a little bit of the setup here, so you have some just information about it. It's an open, active, billable project. And I've got some budget information here. I've got my hours budget. I've got a billable amount budget, cost budget for labor. I don't have expenses. Remember, my expenses are going to be charged on my other expense-only project. And this project is a project that's 3 months long, June 1st through 8/31. So just remember that. It's a 3-month-long project, and it started in June, ending in 8/31. Again, it's a time and materials project, and that's important, and I've got time charged to it already, so it's a grayed out, so I can't go in and change that. And the other important thing here is my cost structure. This setup of a cost structure, cost elements in Unanet by your administrator is what allows some of the key financial accounting reports to show you revenue, profit, total cost, burden cost, etc. So you'll need to make sure you have that set up in your system, that cost elements, what we call in Unanet terms as cost reporting. So there needs to be an association here for a cost structure that stamps all of the time in expenses so that they show up in those cost reports that I'm going to be showing you shortly. The other key thing is total value, funded value. I do have those filled out. Funded value is typically the amount of money your customer has committed and given you. Total value might be a multi-year contract of some kind, and they're making intermittent payments. Actually, I think I'm saying this backwards. The total value is the total value of the contract over multiple years. The funded value is what they've committed to give you so far. You may have a multi-contract, multi-year contract, and they've committed to the first, base year or 2 years of that amount. So it might be the case that over multi-years you might have these values to be different. So some other key things here is I've allowed open access for our organizational administrators access here. I've checked everybody to be able to bill, to plan, assign people or resource requests and view. But I have closed off the ability for anybody to self-plan themselves or assign those self-plan or to be able to charge time to the project without an assignment is what that means here. Now this is a time only project, labor project, right, not expenses. So I do have some setup here for time, allowing the time reporting. In my case, I allowed future charges because I wanted to be able to demo a scenario where I started the project and go in and charge time for some users, so to pretend that time has shot forward a little bit during that same day. And I've also, for DCA compliance, required comments to be put in the system. There's several other 3 key things to notice about your projects and check on your projects is the default for using a labor category and then defaulting the labor category's bill rate as the source for the bill rate, and then the cost rate is defaulted to the person's cost rate, which is typically your salary divided by the number of hours in that year. So it's the annual hourly salary. That was tough to say. We're skipping over expenses because, again, this was not an expense project. And then I do highly recommend, and just as a reminder, to set the alerts on your project. This is an automatic triggering, a report in itself that you can have show up on your dashboard and email to particular roles in your system, the manager, the lead, any alternates that you might have set up in your system, and also showing, the 75% that I've chosen to begin with. Once I pass that 74 time, I just want to take a snapshot of what's happening. I might come back here as the manager of this effort and come back and change it. Well, now let me see 85%, or now let me see 95%. So I can continually increase the percentages as time gets near the end of that project, so I can really keep close ties on things. And this is an automatic triggered event to look at these different alerts. Now in 10.2 we have some additional alerts coming on board, so you want to stay tuned for that, some additional alerts that might be really helpful to you as a project manager. A couple of other things to note is I do have a few tasks at hand with my project here for my labor, capturing project management, design, code, and test, just an example task because I am managing at the task level or the work activity. Additionally, I've got labor categories set up at the project or contract setup. So if you've got a negotiated, bill rate or a GSA schedule, for instance, or some kind of a negotiated rate here, you'd want to have that specific to your contract, specific to this project or set of projects for capturing labor. And that way it will default to this bill rate when you're pulling up the labor category. This also limits the labor categories that can be charging time on this labor project as well. So that's good to know. And then people plans. I did happen to plan people on this particular project, and I've saved that view of that planner under my project here, and it's that retina scanner planner here. So you can see here I have planned at the task level several people for my labor category. I've got it by month here. Our recommendation might be that you plan, based on the time period or your pay period. So that would be better to be able to lock in those transactions and be able to look at all of those locked transactions that are approved on this previous pay period. So as a best practice. Okay, so I wanted to show the plans, and I use these plans to promote them to the assignments. So if I go back to my project here, an easy way to get back to your last project you were looking at is under the quick links here. There's a little tip here that says edit last project. I go right back to my labor project again, whatever that last project is, just in case you didn't know that one. And I'll look at my people assignments and just list those to see, okay, I've got my resources assigned to the task. I've got the capture of the dates. I've done this one by month. I've got my bill rates that I have negotiated for my labor categories. I have my cost rates that are in the system based on the person profile. I have my cost element to be able to charge based on the cost structure, which is in my case called Division A, and that labor cost element or bucket, which is the client site. All this work is going to be done at the client site in this particular instance. And then most importantly, a budget of hours for each one of those resources on the tasks. So I have a total of 940 hours here. So you have a sense of the setup of the project, and especially this labor project here. So I wanted to kind of just familiarize with this particular scenario here. So this was the start of June 1st, and so time has passed, time has been charged, labor's been, everybody's been putting in their timesheets, submitting expenses, etc. So now we here are on June 14th, and I am now going to be that project manager. I'm going to come to my home dashboard here, and I want to look at the first report that I want to look at here that I want to show you in preparation for that PM is, first of all, it's the spend plan. So this is the project revenue and funding summary report. It is available with both tracking and portfolio. So if you have tracking, you have access to this. And I'm looking for the period here of the contract, and I'm looking at those plans, just the soft booking of people to work on this project. It's not the authorization to work on the project, but it's the plan. When I was maybe creating a proposal, I might have set up a set of plans, a soft booking, so I can assess the costs, assess the overhead costs, assess what profit I was going to have based on the revenue and the costs and ODCs, etc. So this is based on plans, and I figured out that my total cost to the customer is this $136,693. So, and that's including my material expenses, any training that I have, etc. So that's the total cost to my customer. And the labor one, the labor revenue is the $123,340. Okay, so that's the plans. Now I promoted those plans to the actual authorization for people to charge time, and those became the resource assignments or the budgets of the resource assignments. So if I change one aspect of the criteria of this one same report, I can include the assignments here only. It should be exactly the same. So it should be the same exact numbers here, you'll see, and it's based on assignments. So it's the actual authorization to charge time with all those budgeted of hours and expenses, etc. So hopefully that makes sense so far. So now I want to go back to the criteria, and this is the part where the PM comes in every pay period and clicks in, the first thing he's going to click in is that same report, and this is going to be on their home dashboard. I can easily look at the revenue, and I want to look at what has actually been charged through 7/14, and then I'm going to look at the resource assignments from the next day forward to the end of the contract, in our case, the 8/31. So again, it's one separate option now to be able to look at actuals plus assignments through today's date. And actually, there is an option to even say today's date. Okay? So let's go back and look at some of this data here. So the first thing that PM might want to look at is this revenue and funding summary. And I look to see here, and what I'm looking for is to see that my backlog is 0 or somewhere close to 0. There's going to be some threshold that you're going to agree on in your company business policies or practices, what's acceptable to be over or under. It might be 500 based on the contract size, right? It might be 1,000. It might be some general portion of that where you would say, okay, I'm off, but I'm not off enough past that threshold to actually dig down any deeper. If my backlog here was 0 or 200 or 500, I could be done. I'm on track. I know the actuals charged to date. I'm consuming all or most of my spend plan here, what I'm charging the customer, and so I'm on target with everything. But in our case, we've got a situation. We've got a major situation here. I'm in the hole here over 9,817. I've got a backlog here of charging. It's telling me that I've got people charging over on that labor project what I initially budgeted and planned. So I need to go dig down and see what's happening. So as a PM, I know I've got to go further. Okay, so revenue and funding summary with actuals and assignments. Actuals to date, or if you're really managing for all of the actuals that have been approved, you might want to look at the previous period, whether it's semi-monthly or the previous time period, to be able to see, I've got actuals, they're not going to change on me. I know they're approved timesheets that are completed, locked, or extracted even. Okay, so I'm going back to my dashboard, and I need to drill in a little bit further. Another one of my favorite reports really is this project metrics comparison report. This is a report that's available, again, with both tracking and portfolio license type. It is available, project metrics comparison. And I'm looking at just this labor project, and it kind of gives me some information about the hours, and it's looking at the billable charges here. I really want to see, based on actuals so far and the budget, I'm over my budget, obviously, and if I keep going, then I'm going to be an estimated total calculated for me of almost $150,000. Well, that's just not going to be acceptable to the customer that I've said, the labor portion is going to be 123, and the total amount is going to be 133 of the contracts, all three of those projects together. So I'm off on that spend plan, and this is just another report to be able to show you this this here for my billable charges, time and materials project. So I need to go figure out what has happened. Something bad has happened. So project metrics comparison report. So the next one is I'm going to look at my cost, revenue, profit analysis. The first one here is my JSR, Job Cost Summary Report. Again, this is another report that's available with your tracking license. It does require that the costing reporting is set up in your system. That means there needs to be a cost structure put in place and cost elements defined. Cost elements are the rows that you see in this report. Those rows have to be defined and mapped to those who are charging time with their assignments and those who are charging expenses as well. So it ties in to be able to view the labor and expenses and then apply burden costs to assess the total project cost, what the revenue is going to be, and in our case, we're shooting for a particular profit percentage of 7.5% as well. But we also need to manage the project based on that bottom line revenue number that we promised. Now, right now, I'm looking at each one of those three projects. This was my expenses, remember. This one, second one is my labor. here. And then the third one is that training, which I haven't started to actually charge the customer for any training hours just yet. So if I'm looking at the labor, I can see, I'm ahead of schedule here. The percent of my budget's incurred, I'm up a bit, almost 57% here. So that's a clue that I'm off somewhere on the labor amount here. I did see that in my backlog here, but I'm looking here as well. I'm about, on raw cost, about $20,000. So I've somebody really charging over. So another couple of key things here is in the JSR, I'm able to drill down if I have the right roles and organizational access to view. I can look at the actuals and see the actual transactions of each of the persons, the labor categories, and see what they've charged for the current period. So that's helpful to understand, what they've charged for that period. I'm looking at, the beginning of the contract to date, today, and seeing what they've charged. And I can look at totals for each labor category as well. So it's great to be able to drill down into the actuals and the assignments as well as for expenses. And I don't have expenses on this one, but assignments and plans. So I can look here, look at assignments and see what the assignments were and the total for the labor category, and also what the plans are. But in my case, the plans and assignments are the same because I was promoted from that. All right, so another option for this JSR that I wanted to show you, if you wanted to look at the entire contract as a whole, you could roll up all the 3 projects together and view that overall in one view. And this is where you'd see the total amount is the 136 with the labor, et cetera, everything together. All right, now before portfolio users, we do have a periodic version of that same report that's dependent upon the cost setup, cost structure, and the mapping, etc. And you can see here it's a period over period. I've got here looking at all 3 contracts together, and I'm looking to see that my periods are, for June, July, and August. That was the duration of my contract here. The actuals through today's date. So you can see here July 16th, it has an asterisk here and then a plus. The asterisk indicates the actuals thus far through today's date. And then budgets or resource assignments from tomorrow moving forward, right? So I can see the projection based on actuals and the projected resource assignments, those budgets, and see where I'm at. And I can see here, I do have a backlog here of the direct labor without the burden costs and the revenue, etc. Here's my revenue, the 9817. And it looks like I have overcharged a bit in the number of hours. I'm drilling down to see, okay, yes, I see there's people charging over on my budget of hours here. That's that backlog here. So I'm off because I planned 1,084 altogether. So periodic performance, periodic cost summary and status report, and this one's rolled up. You have the option, same option, to be able to unroll them, look at actuals, budgets, plans, or including the actuals to date, and then budgets moving forward. Very powerful, powerful report, and I can look at different reporting periods as well. And you can see here I've got it rolled up into the one block for the combination of those projects together in one view. So I need to figure out about those hours, right? We see here we've got someone charging over hours. So for our tracking users, there's a report here available for the project tracking, and it's called the Project Performance Report. This Project Performance Report, I just want to look at these hours here, and I'm looking at the people charging to that labor project, and I can see right away here I've got George Washington charging over 24 hours. There's a variance here. So I need to figure out why George Washington is charged over on his project management. He's the project manager of this particular one, that labor category. So this is for the Project Performance Report. Now, for our portfolio users, we have a periodic performance report, Project Periodic Performance, and it's a little bit different view. It's a period over period. I've done by semi-monthly here. I've got June 1st through June 15th, and then the 16th through the end, and then June 1st through the 15th. So I've got 3 semi-monthly periods here that I'm looking at. And so I'm I'm looking at the level of granularity by person, and you can see here I'm comparing the budget, what I thought was going to happen and what I assigned that person, and what actually happened here. Now, in my case, I allow people to overcharge or exceed their budget of hours. That is an option when you make the assignment to be able to allow or not allow those people to charge over their hours. So you can see here I've got overage here by Bob Costas. I've got an overage here. He worked an extra 8 hours in the first part of June. And I've got some overage here from Gloria, who's charged an overage amount of 35 hours here. So I need to go have a conversation with her and find out why she's having trouble. You know, maybe she's having difficulty with the design or whatever it is, but I need to have a conversation at my staff meeting to figure out why she's overcharging here. Tom Hanks has charged an overage of 10 hours here, and George Washington, our project manager, has charged an overage here as well, and quite a bit here in July. Things are not going well, it seems like. I want to go back to the criteria here and show you there's so many different options here to be able to look at different periodic versions, month or by week. I can look at hours. I can look at hours and charge details. I can look at the budget versus the actual and then show that variance, which is what I had set up here. If I've got time and materials, I can look at margin or the margin percentages. Maybe I need to not look at the people and I want to look at labor categories. So that might be an option to be able to manage at the labor category level and see where my variances are. So you can see here, I've got some variances here. And well, who did that? I would show those people and be able to see, you know, who do I need to go have a conversation with and find out why it's happening. I can always also manage at the task level here and show the tasks that they're charging to and understand the variances at the task level, labor category, and person. So a lot of different levels of granularity that you have access to with the periodic performance report. Okay, so let me go back to my home dashboard. I've covered the periodic performance, the cost revenue that gave me the initial signal, the revenue report here. So at this point in time, I may have a conversation with Gloria, I may have a conversation with George, and they're telling me that something has gone wrong, they're having difficulty getting approval, they're charging and working more hours here. So what do I need to do? I need to make an adjustment somehow in the hours assignments at the project level here. So here are my people assignments again, and you can see here the budget of hours here for Gloria in the design phase and a little bit in the code phase here. She's going to help out, as well as George Washington on the project management. He's gone over his budget of hours per month, right? So I need to make some adjustments here to be able to use what they've got already and deduct next month, because maybe August they won't need as many project manager hours, so I can borrow hours from there. Be cognizant of the bill rate and cost rate at that point in time. So in addition, maybe I need to do some maneuvering here and add some help here for Gloria, so that she can get her job done and help her out potentially, but also remembering that I have a limited of hours that I've committed to, and the government's, you know, is my customer in this particular case, has agreed to pay me, so anything over that I'm not going to get paid for, so it will be non-billable. So, so you'd have to modify your assignments here to be able to add people or take hours away from other assignments to add to this particular month here, since we kind of we had more hours, and then rerun your reports based on those new assignments in the system. So I think at that point in time, I'm going to stop and take some questions from Raul and see how things are going and what we have as far as questions. Raul, how are we doing?
All right.
Any questions come in?
Absolutely. We have
Okay, good.
We have a few brave souls, so we're going to answer their questions live here. Okay, so our very first question here is there a way to update the labor hours forecast?
The labor hours forecast. Well, so the labor hours forecast, if I go back to my project here, this is the labor hours forecast as far as assignment. Now, we have to really make sure our terms are consistent. If you mean forecast as resource assignments, then you would modify these assignments here and reforecast, and it's based on what we call budgets or resource assignments in Unanet's terms. Remembering that our plan is always in place. So if I go back to my periodic performance report here, and I look at this option here, and I include plans, when you make the modification or reforecast your budgets, your resource assignments, your initial plans will always be in place. Your budgets at this point in time might be modified to allow for the additional hours that were needed by Bob Costas in June, but you've got that compared to the initial baseline or plan. So if forecast means resource assignments, then you change the budget. If you are reforecasting based on plans, you have to think about that. Which one do you want to have that original plan in place? Maybe you want to lock that plan and have a new plan, a new version of that plan, which is totally available in Unanet as a different scenario, a baseline, or a different plan set. In Unanet terms, it's called a plan set. So hopefully that answered that question.
Okay, great. You went through the alerts, and we had a question on the alerts where they believe they have it set up correctly, but I think we're missing a setting because it's not working. So in addition to the alerts, these checkboxes, where else would we have to set this up?
Well, you would have to potentially, my recommendation, without looking in your system, is to check with your administrator, because we do have under the admin setup area here a system-wide setup for alerts, and now I'm having trouble finding where that is. I know there is a setting. Maybe it's not under the setup. Maybe it's under, how am I drawing a blank here? Could be under the property settings as well, but I don't remember that. I always thought it was here under the admin setup here. So I need to take a look at that. You kind of throw me here for this question, so I need to investigate that one, and we'll get back to you on that. It could be under properties. Let me just double check if it's under properties here. I just don't remember that one. I don't think it's access permissions. I really do think it was under admin setup here. But we'll take a look and get back with you on that and see why your alerts are not showing up.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So we had a question on the labor cost rate, and the question was, can project managers see these? We don't want people to know what other people's salaries are.
Yeah, absolutely. There is the role that, let me just go to my preferences here and show you roles. So the key is to, now I'm logged in as an administrator here, kind of cheating here, but you would want to have a project manager or maybe the project lead at the project level, but not have the cost rate manager role set. That's the key to be able to make sure that this role is not selected to be able to see cost information. So I would not be able to drill down and have the access for those labor, for that JSR, that labor categories and those labor costs to be able to see that. So it's the cost rate manager. Now we do have property settings that allow non-cost managers and not project managers to be able to see costing information aggregate as rolled up. And those are under admin property. So you might think about those. Those are I think they're under access permissions. Yes, allow cost reporting for non-cost rate managers. So if a manager doesn't have the cost rate, they can still do cost reporting, and then the project cost reporting for non-cost rate managers, and be able to see margins as well. So these are some property settings that you might want to take a look at with your administrator. Hopefully that helps out.
Awesome. We have a good question on the report names. So why are the report titles different in each of the views?
Okay, so I have renamed my report names here. So if I go into, for example, revenue actuals and assignments. So let's click in here and execute this report. It's really the Unanet standard report called Project Revenue and Funding Summary. And that report is, I'm just going to open up a new tab here by opening up a new link and show you the Reports tab. And it's under Revenue and Funding Summary here. That's the standard report. But you have the ability to save that report when I go back to the criteria and save criteria and name it anything that you want that's relevant to those project managers, something that they know to click into and know exactly what they're seeing. I just chose, I want to look at revenue, I'm managing to revenue, I want to see actuals and then the assignments moving forward, and I can save that to whatever dashboard that I want with that name. So that's just a name that I can rename any of our standard reports here. I'm just resaving it here. So you can see some of them I have used just the default naming convention of that standard report. Other ones I've renamed, here's the revenue and funding summary, but based on plan, so it's my spend plan. So hopefully that makes sense.
Awesome, great. All right, we have another one here. Back on the revenue and funding summary report, can you say what the budget column under the total area is pointing at? Is it the expense budget or the profile tab data or something else?
Yeah, so this amount here, this budget amount here, is coming directly from each one of these projects, and it's the revenue, it's the total billable, it's the total, I think it's the total amount. Billable amount here. So if I pull in the total billable amount, it's either total billable amount or total value, total value. I think it's billable amount here, total billable amount here, even though it might be time and materials or fixed price, etc. Fixed price is going to be based on the fixed price setup, which you're billing out. Time materials is going to be based on the labor billable amount, total labor bill. And this is an expense budget. This is an expense project here, so it's going to be expense bill. The funded value is from the third tab, the accounting tab, where you put in the funded value. So if you can see the remaining funded value here. So this is from the project budget tab on each one of these projects, and based on the fact that one's expenses, one's labor, and one's fixed price.
Okay. All right. I have another one here. How do you lock down the plan? I guess versus the update forecast, it appears to use the same screen.
Okay, so let's go back to my projects, and we'll do our edit last project here. So if I go to my plan sets here, then this is my first scenario. I could rename it to call it, maybe baseline. I do have that plan. Maybe it's a budget or a forecast or whatever the naming convention that you adopt in your system. I can call it whatever it is. Let's just say it's this 20XX, my Q1 forecast, and that's the plan, the soft booking that I have for that 3-month contract, which is what this is for the labor part of it. So there's the ability to lock this plan. So I would just hit the lock button here, and it would make a copy of this 20XX Q1 forecast and all the soft bookings of those people or TBDs at the task level for the project. It'd make a copy of all of that information and the hours budget, and it would be the active copy. If I locked it, then this would be in place, locked, and I could not go back and change it. Nobody has the ability to go in and change the plan set once it has been locked, and it automatically makes a copy of it. You can go in and change that copy to be whatever naming convention you want, and it would be version 2, and that copy would be the active copy as opposed to this locked plan set. And then we do have reporting that allows you to go back to the project periodic performance report criteria. When I was showing the plan and the resource assignments and the actuals, I have the ability to show the original baseline locked plan set, and I could choose one of those naming conventions and be able to compare the original baseline. If I change the plan or forecast, then I could choose that active version, then the assignments, and then the actuals. So this periodic performance report has the additional ability to really show a lot of different plans, forecasts, baselines, etc. Project period performance report. Okay?
Well, while we're here on the topic of the plan sets, a question came in: are plan sets assigned to a login ID, or are they across system or by project?
They are. They really are by project, because you can have a project that might use plan sets, but it doesn't necessarily mean that another project has that plan set either. So if I go into a project here, for instance, it's up to the project manager who has access to do this. They can set up different plan sets that are available for this project only. Now, you do have the ability to have plan sets across all of them, but it's mandated project by project. It is flexible enough to have a project that wouldn't need plan sets at all. But the overall system has a property setting that enables the entire Unanet instance, in your instance, to enable the use of multiple plan sets, but that doesn't mean every project has to use them. It's really up to the project manager to create the different viewpoints here, naming conventions here, and have the ability to do that.
All right. So I want to say thanks to the Unanet family here. I got a couple responses from the CAM team and one from one of our services team, Bill, who was out there, who mentioned that the alerts, you have to go to schedule and the project alerts to run. So under admin schedule, and the scheduler needs to be enabled also.
There it is. Okay, there you go. Project alerts here. Thank you so much. I drew a blank here. Project performance alerts. It needs to be set up here, and it can be, you can execute it. It needs to be turned on here in the system actions here. So that's a great place to look, and you can see it's triggered here. So thank you so much.
And as Zoe pointed out, there is a knowledge center entry, so we'll make sure we get out that link as well when we do the follow-ups as well.
Okay, perfect. So just to take people to the Knowledge Center, this is a great resource for you to look up different topics here. So let's just use that as a guinea pig here on the fly and look up alerts. And there's one here on project alerts. And this is the alert that she's probably looking at in the project dashboard, in the project profile, and the task profile. There's also ability to set up those alerts defaulted from the project at the task level. I didn't even show that as well. Alerts are disabled or enabled by the admin schedule, which they pointed out, so that's fabulous, and must be enabled here. So, and then the frequency, because you have the ability to choose if you want to run those every day or during the week, or every night, what time, etc. So it's a triggered event that has to be executed in the background of the Unanet system. Perfect. So there you go.
And while we have while we're right here on this, we have one more on alerts here.
Okay.
Can the alerts be set up at the task level or a level above the task level but below the project level?
Yeah, there isn't a concept of below the project level, above the task level. So I either have the project level, this at the labor project here in my example, or I have tasks here. And I do have the ability to set up tasks at the task level, alerts at the task level. There's a setting here that says turn the alerts on, generate alerts for this particular task, but they're always defaulted to the settings at the project level. So whatever I have set here can be defaulted to the project level. Now I can't change the settings here at the task. I can only change the settings here at the project level, and they will default to all the tasks or subtasks. But I have another viewpoint here that might help. This is a task list of another project here that has a parent task and subtask. Each one of these tasks can have alerts turned on or off. But again, they're always going to use the defaulted set of alerts at the project profile. So I don't have anything set here. So I can customize here and set, maybe I want to have all of these, and I want to have the project hours and costs and labor costs, etc., at like 85% here. So that if I have alerts turned on at any one of those tasks, parent or child, then it would automatically use these alerts triggers at the project level. So hopefully that helped out in the listing there.
Yes, okay, we still have some time, so we have a few more. Back to the revenue and funding summary report.
Okay.
If the to-date column, it's what's been invoiced so far, when you have a backlog until the project was completed.
If the to-date, it's not really what you have invoiced per se, so I want to clarify that so far here. So let's look at this 133. 157. So it's literally what has been, I get what the question is about invoicing, but any transactions that have been charged in a timesheet and recognized in revenue for TM material, TNM, I'm going to use TM material, TNM as an example here. So it's anything that's registered in the cost and the hours for this labor category here, subtracted from the budget, and this budget is literally this is actuals plus assignments, and this is the budget coming from the project labor budget, and then the difference is always going to be, the backlog is always going to be what you budgeted and what you've actually charged to date, in our case time materials labor. So read the question to me again. I'm not sure I answered it fully.
That's it. If the to date column is what's been invoiced so far, wouldn't you have a backlog until the project was completed?
Yeah, the to date, if it's to date here, which I think it is, it's not what's been invoiced so far. This is including actuals plus assignments. So it's including the assignments moving forward, because right here, remember, we looked at this report including actuals through today, but we still have assignments from 7/15 through 8/31. So that part has not been invoiced, or there has not been any actuals put in timesheets yet. So that does not reflect what has what's been invoiced yet.
Okay, let's see. What is the difference between the planner and the assigner under the forecast tab?
Good question. So if you are a tracking license, you don't have the ability to plan or soft book prediction, what I call predictions into the future, planning in the future. If you have a tracking license, you have the ability to hard force authorization or authorize people to charge time. That's what an assignment is, an assignment of resources, named people to charge time in their timesheet, potentially with a budget of hours over a period of time. So when I look at my project again and look at my assignments, let's look here and click here and go to my people assignments here. This is the authorization for these people to charge time during this period with this rates and these hours. Now my plan, if you have the portfolio license, this will appear as a resource planner role, and you can plan people, soft book people with the same information to be able to evaluate, is this the right plan, soft booking of that resource with these rates and these hours, and what will my reporting be such that I have the right revenue, I've got the right profit, I've got the right cost, I've got the right, all those different options here in the cost report. So when I think I'd saved a people planner here. So the planner is very different than the assigner. This is not soft. This is a soft booking of George to work on this task and this labor for this labor project here, the project management task for the 20 hours for July and 20 hours for August. Soft booking, I can still report on it in a portfolio license reporting and see what that plan is. And then when I think that that plan is good, I can assign or promote into assignments, which is the authorization for George to now start charging time. So soft booking versus hard booking, but I can report on it for both. In the portfolio license, I can report on those plans. So hopefully that helped out.
Awesome. We have time for one more question here under this people plans. Under the people plan, what would assign and exceed mean, and how does this affect the assignments?
Okay, so let's go look at the assignment back here at the, should just kept that up in a different tab. So these are my assignments for my labor project here, for each one of them to work by period. And there is an option when I click into edit the assignment to allow the budget to be exceeded or to not allow the budget to be exceeded. Now, here I am in my case here. I had the situation where the project manager looked and saw, oh, got overcharges. We determined when we drilled down and figured out that we had a couple of people charging over their budget amount here. But because I had this checked, I allowed them to exceed the budget of hours for the month of June, and here's a budget of hours of 20, to exceed that. I do have the option as a manager of the project to uncheck this box and not allow them to exceed it. So that forces them to come to me and say, hey, I need to charge more hours. I need to because of this reason. And the PM can make the decision to allow them either to charge over or change the hours here to be, 25 hours or 30 hours and still keep it tight. Or, we have a lot of options here. So it's based on your business policies and how you want your project manager to handle the situations. Do you want to be really, really tight and controlled and not allow them to exceed? That way they've got to come to you, ask for more hours. And when you make that assignment or change it, you add hours here, you've got to negate hours somewhere else, maybe next month or maybe next time period. So those are different options for you to consider when you're managing your projects. So great question.
Awesome. Well, that was the last question we had. Thank you, everyone, for sending in your questions.
Well, I think what I'll do is I will continue back onto my PowerPoint, and because I have some additional information for us here. And then if some questions come in, you can just pipe in at a later point in time. And I wanted to show here that these are the reports that I went through today, the revenue and funding summary with the plans, with the assignments, and then the one that the PM is going to look at is actuals and assignments through the last pay period. In my example, I just put it through my actuals through today. Then there's the JSR, the cost information, JSR, and the periodic cost summary. That's the costing reports to be able to show the revenue, profit, the proper percentages. The JSR is the one available with tracking, and the periodic reports are the ones available with the portfolio reporting. Performance report is the tracking versus the periodic performance, which is a portfolio. Performance shows different granularities at the task level, at the person level, to be able to show what was budgeted, what was actual over a given period of time. For periodic performance, giving a little bit more granular detail because I can look at different periods and see where the variances come into play, labor category, task, person, etc. And then I did show that metrics comparison report. That's a favorite of mine as well, to be able to show in a snapshot a line item, one line for each of the different projects that I have, and see if I'm under, over budget for billable as far as hours. And I even have the option to show costs if you're managing your costs for labor categories or labor at the dollar amounts as well for costs. So those are the reports that I showed today. We kind of covered all this. You guys know resources are available to you, the CAM resources. We have a success team. We've got a support team. You've got help documentation. We did take a peek at the Knowledge Center, and we also have our Unanet University, which is classes, education as well. And then we do have a community available for you, our LinkedIn Unanet users group. We've got Facebook. We are on Twitter. So we have a lot of resources for you. If you do have more particular questions, don't hesitate to contact cam@unanet.com or to contact your customer account manager directly. Our Unanet University, just to let you know, we do have a number of courses coming up. We've got one in July 19th, which is next week, Foundations of Time and Expense. This is really a great administrator refresher course. So if you have new administrators to your organization and they need a refresher course, this is really a great option. Billing and invoicing and revenue recognition. There's a series here of 3 together during that week. Forecasting and planning. That's really would talk a lot about the things that I covered today, the planning, forecasting, etc., and the reports that go along with that. So if you wanted more education, hands-on education, September 20th, that would be the thing to go to. And then I'll be teaching the foundations of reporting, really talking about a lot of different options, the dashboard, search criteria, setting up your standard reports, pushing those to your different roles in the system, and talking a little bit about roles and org access to those reports. So it's really a great foundational reporting class for any users in the Unanet instance. And then a repeater back in October for the administrative refresher course, and then costing and revenue and project report. In fact, that is an all-day class for cost, revenue, and profit reporting, those cost reports. Our next webinar I wanted to talk about, let me show that to you really quickly. I'll be talking in 3 weeks for our next webinar, which is, if you look at unanet.com and go to services, which is the quickest way to go, I'll look at customer webinars, and you'll see, well, we don't have those up there yet, but the next one in 3 weeks, August 4th, is going to talk specifically about that one report that I showed, the cost summary and status report. This view, this cost revenue here report, the JSR and also the cost summary and status, and how you can tailor, configure, customize this report to have different views. So we're going to focus on this report and the ability and how we create different views. And our different views are defined here by the administrator. You can see here I've got a number of them here. And how do we create those? What's in there? So I'm going to give you some specific tutorial information about creating different views. This might be a view that you'd want to send out to your customer that doesn't have all your internal costs and your overhead rates, etc., listed on there. So a different, smaller view. Here's the proposal, the bottom line dollar amount, your labor category costs, what our total expenses are going to be, and boom, you send that off to customer. So a different view. So that's what our next webinar is going to be. So we'll have that up on our website here shortly. Okay, well, thanks for joining us today. We're ending right on time here. If you have any additional questions, let us know. We're happy to help, and have a great rest of your afternoon. Take care.